All right, so it's true. I purchased some Bitcoin, and it's also true that I've criticized it a lot in the past, and I'm probably going to get criticized for making this video. I am the index fund passively managed investor. I am not the gambling type, and I know what a lot of my original subscribers, people that have been around for a while, what they might be thinking. But I did say that in 2017, when I started this YouTube channel, that I would always be fully transparent and give you guys an idea of what I was doing and, make certain decisions that might be a little risky or make some mistakes. So I kind of want to go through why I've changed my mind about Bitcoin from even a year or two, 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, and kind of just like break it down, how I understand it, and people will be able to get down in the comments down below and, tell me if I missed anything or tell me if I'm really far off. This is going to be an open discussion. It's kind of me being vulnerable. I didn't want to make the video out of fear of criticism, but I think it's worth listening to, and I might be able to open your mind up to it. I'm not going to go through how I buy it and sell it and things like that, hardware wallets. I pretty much just want to go through like the way I used to feel, the things I kind of learned in my research over time and talking to other people, and why I've finally decided to make the decision to enter a position into Bitcoin. So the first time I really heard about Bitcoin was in 2017 when that spike was going on and it reached its all-time highs. And luckily I was in debt at the time. So I wasn't investing. I didn't have to worry about it. It wasn't that big of a deal for me. But I definitely had to look into it and like Google it and see what all the hype was about. And when I first learned about it, it was as foreign and crazy and speculative and dumb as, all of the other people that were criticizing it were saying. I was on board, and it was really when I saw Bill Gates, Charlie Munger, and Warren Buffett sit down and get interviewed about Bitcoin, and hearing what they had to say really just turned me off to it. And to be honest, after I heard them speak about it, I closed my mind off to it and said that I would never even consider it. Now, I've done this so many times in personal finance and then realized that was completely the wrong position to take. For example, like when I was super closed-minded about Dave Ramsey, that set me back. And it wasn't until recently when I had that interview with Marco from Whiteboard Finance over on the podcast that it made me think again, like, am I being too closed-minded? It has been a couple years. Let's go down and let's look at some more research. And then you see these big companies that are starting to get on board, or JP Morgan Chase. Their CEO said they would fire anybody that was trading it, and now they're saying that it's going to 10x. Things like that just made the wheel start turning again and made me start to consider it. And full disclosure, I don't even now disagree with some of the things that Charlie and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were saying. Like Charlie Munger, he pretty much bashed it. He was like, you take a turd on a plate and you give it to another, you give the turds to somebody else, and he just crapped all over it. Warren was like a little bit more, PC, a little bit more gentleman about it. But he pretty much called it like a fancy comp sci experiment, like a computer science trick. And he said that anybody that gets mad when you criticize their investments, they're gambling, right? They said people like to speculate, people like to gamble, and it's true. I still kind of agree. This is a huge speculation. And Bill Gates said it's the greater fool prophecy. So essentially, like, I'm a fool for buying it, and I'm hoping there's going to be a bigger fool later on that's going to give me more money for it. Now, I can't completely disagree with those points, but I've at least learned enough, I think, to come up with my own decision and make the moves that might be right for me in my own personal finance journey. So for those that have only heard the bad, let me just break down what Bitcoin is exactly in real simple terms. And if you know exactly what it is, just skip ahead if you want to see my opinion and really the real reasons why I'm buying it. But first we have to understand like what Bitcoin is and what it really represents for us, the investor. All right, now here's how I see money, right? Money has some sort of value, and that value is going to be backed by something, which we'll talk about something. And then if we invest in that, if we invest our money, we have like a trust that later on that money is still going to hold value. Now, early on, way back when, money was backed by gold. But then it got to the point where that was not convenient, right? You couldn't like chop gold up into a million pieces. You couldn't just carry around all this gold. So what they essentially did is you took your gold to the bank, and then the bank said, we'll give you some currency for that gold. And then if you want your gold back, bring that currency back to us and we'll switch it out, right? Money was really created out of convenience. But now that's not the case anymore, right? Our money is not backed by one thing. It's backed by a governmental promise. We now have to trust someone, like the Fed, the government, as opposed to trusting in some tangible thing, gold, right? We have to hope that the government does the right thing with our money so that our money holds value, because we can't go back and just give our currency back for gold or something else later. Really, our money, the paper that we hold, really means nothing. And in that trust in someone, they could do really whatever they want with money, right? It's all centralized to them. They are the central authority. They're the ones that make more money, and when they do so, it lowers the value of our dollar every single day as they just continue to print money and money and money. Things aren't more expensive. The value of our dollar is just less. So for something that was a price at one point, now we need multiple dollars to pay for that same value, because as our federal government prints more and more money, the value of our dollar just decreases. And to me, the thought of like a cryptocurrency or a digital money seems so foreign to me, but if you think about it, I looked into it. 90% of our US dollar transactions are done digitally, right? We have credit cards, wire transfers, PayPal, Venmo, all these different things, ways to transfer money back and forth. Like, I really don't know the last time I had paper money on me in my pocket. Like, I can't remember the last time that happened. And so 90% is already digital. And you can't just go and print digital money. Well, why can't you do that? Well, because the banks keep track of it on their ledger. They keep track of all the transactions that everybody makes. When I send money to you, the bank that we have takes care of that. But we can't go in and see all the transactions. It's not transparent, right? And that lack of transparency can lead to some shady business. Enter Wells Fargo. It leads to corruption and all these other things. We can't see how they maintain it. We trust their computers are going to track all of the transactions with our US dollar. Not only that, but there's also misuse of our dollar and bailouts and things. Our money is being used for things that maybe we don't approve of, because we don't have any authority to it, right? We don't run our money in our system, the government does. And this isn't the government's out to get us a conspiracy theory, but it's something to be thinking about. Like, right, we don't want the government to have control over as much as they have control of. We want to limit the government's control and put the fate of our money back into our own hands. So wouldn't it be great if all these transactions were transparent, right? If they were global, if they were self-regularized, decentralized, like, that would be outstanding. That would be fantastic. If we could go in and see every single transaction that's ever been made with the currency that we use, well, that's essentially Bitcoin and the blockchain that you might have heard of. So here's how we can break down like the Bitcoin miners and things like that and the blockchain. Early on in Bitcoin's history, it really wasn't that secure of a network because there was few people that were regulating this ledger, all these transactions, all right? And all of the blocks, the transactions are going to go in blocks, and then the blockchain connects all those blocks to all the computers that are running the Bitcoin network. Those essentially are your miners. The miners, they also release Bitcoin into the public because there's a fixed amount of Bitcoin, 21 million, but not all of those are in circulation. They get released into circulation by the miners. So the miners are actually putting Bitcoin into circulation while protecting and maintaining the ledger for validity. And these tens of thousands of miners are updating pretty much up to the second. So you're like, well, can't these miners just turn around and mess with things and hack the blockchain? You would need to hack every single one of these computers that are updating every single second, right? The fact that there's so many and the more miners we have, the more secure the network becomes. And this is what makes it so decentralized. I think about it like this. Early on when we had newspapers, before the internet, you got your news from your daily newspaper. It was centralized and you got the information that they were going to give you. Well, think about what the internet did to the news, right? It decentralized the news. You can now get your news from wherever you wanted. You did not need to depend on one news source. So to me, Bitcoin is almost like the internet. Like, it's going to decentralize the Fed and what the Fed is doing with our money. Okay, so why am I going to purchase it now after all these years? Well, all that aside, I really see this as an asymmetric bet. Now, if you don't know what that means, it means there's a little bit of risk with a ton of upside reward. And that little bit of risk really depends on you. If I put up the pie of my entire investment portfolio, you will see that a large majority of it is index funds. I'm an index fund investor. I have a little bit in individual stocks. I have a little bit of cash. And I figure that if I can take 1% of my investment portfolio and invest it in Bitcoin, if I lose 1%, that is a low amount of risk. I will not feel that. It always stings to lose some money, but 1% is not going to break me. But on the flip side, it has a 10x potential, and some of the experts and analysts are saying even more than that to go up. So that's what I mean by an asymmetric bet. I pretty much have the risk of losing 1x or 1% with the gain of getting 10x, 10%. And that 1% number is very, very comfortable for me. I know some people have 2, 3. I think Marco said he had 5 or 6. That's really up to you. For me, I'm comfortable risking or gambling or whatever you want to say with 1% of my net worth to roughly get 10%. Now, the whole process of buying it and storing it, that's a completely different video for a completely different day. If that's something you want to see, let me know down in the comments below. I'll make a video of like what exchange I use or what's the platform I use to buy and sell Bitcoin and what kind of hardware wallet I store, because you do need to protect yourself. Guys, if you go into this with a negative mindset and thinking it's bad, and it's scammy, like guys, there's scams in the US dollar as well. So I was thinking that way. I was too close-minded. I opened my eyes up a little bit, and now I see like there could be a little bit of risk, which is worth a little bit of reward, especially with such a small percentage of my portfolio. This channel's always been about transparency. I'm a genuine guy, so I'm always going to tell you when I'm doing stuff. I will let you know if anything changes, and until I see you guys in the next one, stay positive, work really, really hard. Always, please be kind to other people. I hope you have yourself an amazing day and an even better tomorrow.